Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's Israel at War update. And as we're set to deliberate the latest developments, including a terror attack that just took place on the border of Allenby, which is the border between the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan and Israel, regrettably, two Israelis, at least from what I understood, have been murdered in this event. The perpetrator, a Jordanian citizen, opened fire there, and he was subsequently eliminated as well. Additional events are taking place in Lebanon, in Syria, Iran, and more. But before all that, let's highlight that today we mark day 713 since the Islamist Hamas and its terror affiliates launched their heinous crimes against citizens of southern Israel on October 7th of 2023, when they murdered some 1,200 mostly civilians, wounded roughly 4,800 others, and kidnapped 251 people. 48 of them remain in Hamas captivity to date. Now let's introduce our experts for today, to include Ambassador Dani Ayalon, formerly Israel's ambassador to the United States, as well as Deputy Foreign Minister, currently among a long list of other positions. We're very fortunate to have him as a co-host of TV7's very own Middle East Review. Next to him, retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, formerly an Assistant Secretary of State for Political and Military Affairs, a long list of other positions as well. And last but certainly not least, is also Brigadier General in Reserve, Dr. Amnon Sofrin, who formerly served as the Chief of Intelligence at Mossad, as well as a Senior IDF Intelligence Directorate Officer. Again, a long list of other positions as well. If we would provide all three curriculum vitae, of course, the show would be over by then. But I'd like to start with Ambassador Ayalon. Of course, we are currently at a situation in which, yet again, a terrorist attack plagued one of Israel's borders, this time on the eastern border with Jordan, a country with which Israel does have a peace treaty with. Nevertheless, it is a cold peace, as we define it, since it seems like the relations between the two countries have plenty of hostile rhetoric directed at one another, predominantly emanating out of Amman, namely the Jordanian capital, towards Israel.
Yes, Jonathan. Well, I would say that without looking deeply into it, in my mind, there's no doubt that this is a Hamas terror attack. Certainly, it's not Jordanian. Jordan has a keen interest in continuing the strategic cooperation and alliance between Israel and the United States and Jordan. And of course, we are all in this United States camp, which includes the Abraham Accord countries, Egypt and Jordan, Israel, of course. But I think it reinforces the importance of actually eliminating the Hamas. It proves that Hamas is down, but not out yet. Hopefully, after this current operation in Gaza, we will achieve a serious demise of the Hamas in many, many ways. I believe that the fact that they had this very radical, really dangerous Islamic ideology, together with possession of territory, made them a major force and a major threat to the Middle East, of course, being backed by Iran, also by Qatar. So far, we have dealt a major blow to this axis of evil, or the Shiite axis: Iran, Hezbollah, Assad regime, which are all down. Hamas is the last and the toughest nut, not because it was the strongest of all these elements, but because of its entrenchment in Gaza, which the underground of Gaza rivals the metro of New York. So again, I think what we have seen today is that they will continue. Iran will continue, and I would like just to remind everyone the quote from Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, a few years back, that the soft belly of Israel is the Jordanian river and the border with Jordan, which is our longest border. And they will and have tried already to infiltrate through Jordan to topple the Jordanian regime. And this is just another sad reminder of what we're up against and the importance of really collaborating again and pulling together under the U.S. leadership, certainly Jordan and in Egypt and other countries in the region.
Khamenei's 9 points of how to destroy the state of Israel, articulated on November of 2014, during the course of which he did indeed mention the West Bank, quote unquote, as the soft belly of the state of Israel, which includes, of course, the border with Jordan. General Sofrin, of course, yesterday we had quite a high level meeting in Amman where the King Abdullah II hosted the Amir of Qatar, namely Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. I would like to have General Kimmett touch on that part, but before, to put into context, this attack included a driver, a Jordanian citizen, a driver of a truck with humanitarian aid earmarked for the Gaza Strip, nonetheless. He seemed to disembark and open fire while still standing on Jordanian soil towards Israeli territory, unfortunately murdering two, including one man in his 60s, another in his early 20s. This comes, as Ambassador Ayalon just mentioned, a Hamas attack. This comes merely a couple of months after the Jordanians have outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood, which Hamas is an offshoot of. Is there really an indication that this is once again a rise of the Muslim Brotherhood trying to somehow hamper relations between the Hashemite kingdom and Israel?
First of all, let us remember that this is the second attack. About a year ago, or even less, the same event at the same place happened, and the same results. 2 men killed, 2 Israelis killed in this attack that was about a year ago. That means that our people, I believe, first of all, this is somebody who is maybe inspired. I'm not sure that this is an organized, some infrastructure that sent him to do this terror attack. He may be even acting as a lone wolf on his own idea, on his own opinion, but he's inspired by the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood. He, of course, wants to take revenge on Israelis because of what happens in Gaza, in his opinion, of course. That's what I believe. Of course, that even though that Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan were excluded, as you mentioned before, they didn't disappear. That means that they're still active. They try, under the inspiration and under the encouragement of Iran, to destabilize this regime of King Abdullah and to take advantage on that. And therefore, they will do anything to disrupt this peace agreement that was signed between Israel and Jordan about 1994. And therefore, we should see maybe we should see some other cases in the future, but this is not the end of it. That means that even though they were excluded by King Abdullah, that doesn't mean they disappeared. They're there, they have the same ideology, and they want to fight Israel.
Thank you, General Sofrin. General Kimmett, as I mentioned, there was a meeting between the Emir of Qatar and the King of Jordan just yesterday, a day after the Organization of Islamic Cooperation met in Qatar, Doha, hosting a whole host of Arab and Islamic leaders, deliberating a so-called response to Israel's strike on the Hamas leadership in Qatar. The outcome was merely a condemnation. They didn't manage to formulate any type of joint response, since the divisive nature of the various Arab countries is much stronger than anything that one may call unity in this world. But nonetheless, I'm very keen on hearing your take on this, since there is also a lot of disinformation and a lot of condemnations emanating out of Jordan's leadership against Israel, particularly vis-a-vis the Gaza Strip, but not only.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think we've got to both all recognize that Qatar and Jordan are two of the weakest military powers in the region, very, very unable to do anything with a military response. Qatar, in particular, has sort of seen itself as the great mediator in the region and likes to stay certainly not behind the scenes, but below the parapet. This was for the Qataris a very embarrassing event when Israel attacked the Hamas leadership. So I think what we're seeing here is the classic British quote of "we must be seen to be doing something." Both Qatar, with their initial response, hosting of the organization conference, the OIC. But look, I think everybody recognizes that this is a very ephemeral, temporary response and very unlikely to produce any short-term dangers or long-term concerns.
Thank you, General Kimmett. Before we enter into more of the challenges in the region, Ambassador Ayalon, as a veteran diplomat, yesterday we saw the Fijian Prime Minister alongside a long list of dignitaries from this Pacific island coming to Jerusalem and proclaiming, or rather inaugurating, their mission in Jerusalem, becoming the seventh country to do so. What are we to take out of that?
So the opening of the Fijian embassy in Jerusalem is a small coup, maybe a small comfort for Israeli diplomacy after the big blows coming from Europe, the major European countries, actually planning and preparing to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state in this very festive moment of the convening of the General Assembly of the UN next week. I believe that this move by the European will not advance peace or the chances for political dialogue, but quite the opposite. It's a unilateral step without any stipulations or conditions or concessions from the Palestinian side. So I don't think that this is an incentive for the Palestinians to move ahead diplomatically, nor to make any concessions towards peace on the one hand, and it will lock Israel into a corner where we could not actually offer or make any concessions. And also, the US has always maintained that there is only one indispensable country that can really be instrumental here, with the wherewithal, with the credibility, which is the United States. And all peace agreements so far have been aided by or constructed by the United States, the European, or trying to internationalize the conflict will not be helpful. And I think that we see a very strong position coming out of Washington against these unilateral steps by the Europeans, and more countries like Fiji, albeit small ones, that are coming into Jerusalem. It is a small weight, but very symbolic gesture against this European, I would say, dangerous move.
Staying on the diplomatic front, the European Union has announced its efforts to push for a new package of sanctions against Israel. The European High Representative for Foreign Affairs, or rather External Affairs and Security, namely Kaja Kallas, came out and stated that One of those measures will include the partial suspension of the trade agreement between the European Union and Israel. Nevertheless, to push for something like this, it will require a unanimous vote by all EU member states, something that the European Commission does not have. So, General Sofrin, what am I missing here? And to what degree is this yet again another ploy by the European institution to try and assert its own political narratives at the expense of its own union laws, so to speak?
I believe that they are trying to signal to Israel that they don't really like what we're doing in Gaza, and that the fact that the fighting is going on, the fact that we are now aiming to go into Gaza City, which is a crowded area with residents still living there. The IDF assessment is so far that about 400,000 people left Gaza, but there are about almost the same quantity of people that stay in Gaza itself. And this is going to be very complicated. And the fact that we are bombarding this city from the air and by tanks and APCs and whatever is causing them to try to make what we call kind of desperate moves in order to apply pressure on Israel to stop this fighting. And even though they don't have right now, an unanimous vote, and will not have probably because some major countries like Germany, I hope, I'm not sure, will object and or reject this proposal. That means that they won't be able to really implement it. But this is signaling to Israel that we can make some moves that will cause you damage on the what they call economical side and on trade side. If you go on and fight in Gaza and cause damage to what we call or collateral damage to these residents living in these streets.
Thank you, General Sofrin. General Kimmett, related to the European Union, but more focused now on the Islamic Republic of Iran. This afternoon, there was scheduled a meeting, or rather a phone conversation between the foreign minister of the Ayatollah regime or the Islamic Republic and the E3, namely France, Britain, and Germany, to include also the High Representative herself, Ms. Callas, during the course of which they aimed to discuss the so-called snapback mechanism after the decision by the E3 to trigger this mechanism. And it is, of course, coming very close to the point where, once again, all those various sanctions under various UN Security Council resolutions between 2006 and 2010 will be reenacted against the Ayatollah regime's various economic capacities, its nuclear program, and other aspects of this country. But nonetheless, it seems like the Islamic Republic is very vigorous in its approach. And when it comes to the United States, and I'd like to quote the foreign ministry's spokesman, who from Iran, who said the following: the United States is in no position to make any decisions about Iran's national defense capabilities. The Islamic Republic of Iran is determined to preserve its independence at any cost, stand on its own feet, and firmly resist the extensive demands, aggression, and acts of hostility by foreign powers, including the United States and the Zionist regime, i.e., Israel. What are we missing when we're talking about this supposed projection of resolve by the Iranians, knowing full well how weak they are at this point in time?
Well, I would argue the point about whether they really are weak. If there's one thing about the Iranian Republic, we can certainly say that they are resilient. Sanctions have for years and years, like we had in Iraq, makes a country hunker down in a wartime mentality. The fact remains is that a significant number, if not a majority, of Iranians believe that Iran should possess a nuclear weapon just because of the preeminence of their country. So I think the only calculus that the Ayatollah and his inner circle focus on is the internal threat and not the external threat. Remember, this is an Ayatollah who's never left his country. He doesn't know what the rest of the world is like. His barometers inside of his office are much more about internal politics than external politics. And frankly, I believe that as long as he can keep his people generally fed, the resistance and the protest movements quelled, and the IRGC on his side, my view is that they can continue in business as usual, even with the snapback resolutions coming into place.
Ambassador Ayalon, your take on this, and to what degree can Israel continue to maintain pressure, of course, in close cooperation and coordination with the United States to ensure that the Ayatollah regime does not attain the nuclear capacity that it so aspires to do?
Well, I definitely agree with General Kimmitt's assessment about the resilience of the Iranian regime or people. Although only 20% of the population really, favor or like this regime, still we see that they have withstood a lot of crises and they're still on their feet. It is, although, a moment in time where I think they are the most vulnerable since 1979, where they took power. And this is on a few accounts. First and foremost, of course, the sanctions that are still biting with the threat of the snapback. Secondly, of course, the military blow that they got from Israel, which is really resonating very much in the region and I would say embarrassing Iran, detracting from what they try to project as in terms of their strength and might. And thirdly, they have their own objective problems with shortage of water and of electricity. So all this together, I believe, would induce them to make some concessions. Whether this will be just a tactical one, yes, I think that they will try to alleviate any of the pressures. They would like to bide their time until the snapbacks are obsolete. And then, of course, they will go back to their own ways with just cheating and concealing, and we will have to be on guard all the time.
Thank you, Ambassador Ayalon. Dr. Sofrin, the Islamic Republic is, of course, at the expense of its own people, continuing to make every effort to rehabilitate its various proxies, including its proxy in Yemen, which is sustaining blow after blow from Israel in recent weeks. What are we to take out of that, and to what degree is this multi-front war at the latter stages of the campaign rather than midway?
I think that what we call the multi-front or multiple front war is no longer valid, since Hezbollah is very weakened right now in Lebanon, and they suffer a lot of pressure coming out from the government to disarm or to dismantle the weapon systems, even though they reject it. And I don't see the government forcing them to do that, but nevertheless, they're very weak right now, and they don't get supply of new weapon systems coming out from Iran, just like they used to do before, or used to have before. And same goes with money that was delivered from the Iranian regime via Syria and other ways into Lebanon that is not valid anymore. Second, we see that Hamas is very weakened and cannot join Iran and attack Israel just like it could do before October 7, 2023. And they are left only with the Houthis, because if you look at what happens in Iraq, all the proxies of the Iranian regime in Iraq, namely Hashd al-Sha'bi, are very restricted by the government, and they are keeping very low profile, and they don't really challenge Israel, and they don't take an active part in every engagement we have with the Iranians. Therefore, they're left only with the Houthis, mainly. And therefore, the Houthis are, on behalf of promising that they are supporting the brothers in Gaza, launch once in a while a missile or a kamikaze UAV into Israel, trying to cause damage. Most of them are intercepted on the way. Part of them are falling before even getting to the Israeli boundaries. Once they succeeded in launching this UAV into a Ramon terminal north of Eilat, but this is all they can do. And even though we attack them often ongoing attacks inside Yemen with the Houthis, they keep on fighting, they keep on launching missiles. They get supply from Iran, they get support from Iran, but they fight on their own initiative and their own terms. And I believe that the Iranians are now more than ever understand, even after what we call rising lion operation, that are on their own. No one can help them, no one is going to assist them. And we saw that during this operation. None of their proxies even raise a hand or finger to assist the Iranians.
Thank you, General Sofrin. General Kimmett, we have time for one more sentence. The floor is yours. Rather, the screen is yours.
We are watching with great interest the visit of President Gilani to the UN Security Council, the UN General Assembly next week. Sadly, I think the amount of recognition and support he gets will be directly proportional to the amount of force he uses in the future against his enemies inside of Syria, the Alawis, the Druze, and the Kurds up north. I think it's dreadful the way we are treating him as the return of a rock star, but I would just simply say watch UNGA closely, watch Gilani closely next week.
A man that was inspired by 9/11 to join Al-Qaeda goes to New York. Who would have believed that to be the case in the year 2025? I will highlight that many of those reports circulating in the media today with regard to some almost breakthrough between Jerusalem and Damascus is all false. And this is just merely a charade by the Damascus regime to prepare the way for Ahmad al-Shara or Abu Muhammad al-Julani before his trip to the United States. But with that, I'd like to thank General Kimmett, Ambassador Ayalon, and General Sofrin for all of your insights. I'd like to thank all of you at home as well. Until our next edition from here in Jerusalem, Shalom. TV7 Israel invites you to watch and hear some of the most knowledgeable experts, most of whom partook in creating policies shaping this region today. Join us for Jerusalem Studio.